glad to have you back on Nigeria Decides on Plus TV Africa. And before we went on the break, we were talking about ballot box snatching and the president's statement during APC caucus meeting on Monday. Yes, we're continuing the conversation, but this time we're joined by Dotun Olaribiwe. He is the candidate, Lagos Central Senatorial District for Liberation Movement. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having
we also have Hamzat Lawal. He is the Chief Executive, Connected Development Guild. Welcome on set.
Thank you.
Now, Doctor, I believe while you were waiting behind for this segment, you listened to the heated conversation we were having about ballot box snatching. But do you think necessarily within our electoral process, considering 2011 and 2015 and other years all throughout, have we seen a decline? Would you say we've seen any decline, or it's still at a plateau stage?
A decline of ballot snatching, a bit?
Yes, ballot box snatching.
Yeah, there's been a decline, really. Yeah. It's really gone down, you know. But it is still a phenomenon that still occurs, you know, because, hey, when you see they are voting against you somewhere, you don't want those votes to count. No, that's when you come in and bring your thugs with the guns and boom. So that is why there's a lot of prominence for those thugs that hide under the canopy of Union of Transport, all these kind of things, you know what I mean? That's their major function. That's where they're important to the government. So. Okay,
now you watched the president's speech and what he said about the punitive measure. This time is going to be extreme, and he's telling us that he's mobilizing the military to combat ballot box snatching, and that anyone who's involved, you know, will know what he said. Now, where do you stand on that? Do you stand with the president? Do you think the threat is too extreme? I stand with the president on that. Okay. You see, because, like, unfortunately, I believe he has been misunderstood. Hey, Buhari is a soldier, and he remains a soldier. Forget about being a civilian president. No. We don't have democracy. We have civilian rule in Nigeria. So don't let us fool ourselves. You see, I know the way I take it, you know, I stand to be disputed or corrected. You see, what he was trying to portray was like, you people are saying, I want staggered election, I want this, I want to rig, I want to do, I mean, he's trying to, you know, tell you, I don't want to rig. I don't care to lose, you know, within the context of his own, whatever, limitations or knowledge, you know. But what he said, the way it came across, is what people are, you know, now making noise about. You know.
Hamzat, how much of a threat do you think necessarily ballot box snatching still really remains within our electoral process, linking that to how sharp the president says is going to be coming on those who indulge in such practices?
Well, I think interfering with the electoral process undermines the credibility and outcome of an election. But for me, I think that the president was extreme. No one is above the rule of law, and you know the Electoral Act is quite clear. When you interfere with an electoral process, you go to prison for 2 years. So I believe that in as much as the president have made this pronouncement, even Mr. President is not above the law. So let's allow the law take its course.
Now, when we were talking before we came on, you told us that you work at the grassroots. I would like to put this, to find out from you, those at the grassroots, were they affected by the postponed election last Saturday? What's the feeling like?
I tell you, the people at the grassroots are the ones that actually bear the brunt of the postponement.
But they didn't have to travel.
So Connected Development is an accredited observer for the 2019 elections. We deployed over 5,000 observers. A day before the elections, we deployed our volunteers who went to various communities across the 774 local governments. When the announcement was made around 2:45 a.m. in Abuja, I was actually in the room where Professor Mahmoud made the pronouncement. We could not get hold of our observers. You know why? Because there is no mobile connectivity in the grassroots. So we had to redeploy people to go and inform our people and bring them back to the state capital. Interestingly, by 6 a.m., voters were already turning up to the polling booths, expecting to cast their ballot as early as 6 a.m. A lot of local women had prepared kunu zobo, kunu aya, and puff puff and buns, thinking and hoping that, you know, people who come to cast their ballots, when they're tired waiting for during the vote counting, they might want to take soft drink and snacks.
So they could not sell.
They could not sell, yes.
Yes,
So
in your assessment, they were really affected.
Oh, really, really affected.
Okay.
Well, still talking about ballot box snatching and checkmating this trend, we have some feed from our social media platform, and we'll just like to take you through some of them and also have your reaction on them. And Adeola says, why are people
so scared of the consequences of their action, and with the hashtag snatch at your own risk? And then we have this one by CBN Governor Akishola, that moment when you are chilling. Okay, yes, definitely those tweets, we would have loved to read them out to you. But then just so you know what people are saying on Twitter regarding the president's statement. Now, we know that ballot box snatching, we've established that it is not as rife as it was before. But now the president is coming because he's also a contestant. He's also contesting in this election. And that could have been one of the reasons why he decided to come out this hard. But then how much of an effect do you think that his statement would have on the military, on the security agencies who ordinarily want to punish people for wrong? Now that the #1 citizen is saying, and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces is saying, anyone who snatches have to pay with his own life. What's the effect that you think it would have on the security agencies?
So, just to put this on record, the Nigerian army is not to be cited around polling units, because that is that will cause voter apathy and intimidation. But they would remain around the vicinity just to provide protection. The IG of police have stated that at least 3 security personnel would be at each polling
unit. Okay.
But this has an effect. So the president's speech have an adverse effect in the sense that our police are not even well equipped or well trained. And a lot of them are trigger happy. We saw what happened a few days ago with the custom officer. But
they won't be carrying guns at a polling unit, so isn't that something to be happy about? At least they won't be armed, right?
No, see, this is about if for instance there is an incident, everyone has a day in court or should have a day in court. You can't be the executive, the legislator, and the judiciary at the same time. Even if anyone is found wanting, sue the person and let the person face the justice system.
Okay, I would also want you to react to that, Dotun. What's the effect?
You see, like, you need to understand that in security, right? You know what I mean? What President Buhari was saying, like he has said now, soldiers will not be at the polling booth, but they are going to provide security, perimeter security. So at the time you snatch the ballot box, you see, when you come to snatch ballot box, hey, these guys, they come with guns. You know, they shoot into the air, you know, everybody goes, they take the box. Then they go in one direction. That is where the military will come in, if it happens. The military will not come to the polling unit. The policeman there will not carry a gun. So if the thugs come, when they shoot, even the policeman will run away. But when you are carrying the ballot box away, that is perimeter security that the military is going to provide. That is what Buhari is talking about.
But with the introduction of our smart card readers now, how useless really is this trend? Because at the end of the day, it goes just beyond the thumbprint. You have to have means of verification to show that this thumbprint belonged to person XYZ. So how does the smart card reader, this technology, really make this trend useless and not as attractive a malpractice for those who want to engage in misconduct?
You need to get what is happening here, right? See, technology, smart card reader is to verify that you are the owner of the card you want to use to vote.
Before you now thumbprint?
Yeah, before you thumbprint. When you're thumbprinting, you see, ballot snatching is before the votes are counted. Are you following me? That's when you snatch the ballot box. You see, so whether you thumbprint, then you vote, if that ballot paper that you have thumbprinted is not counted for collation,
don't you rather think the main focus should rather be on those who have access to those ballot box papers? Because at the end of the day, before you get to thumbprint, you're supposed to have a sheet to have your thumb on. So those who would now decide to steal the papers and then now pad the whole ballot, then that's where the main question lies, not just
No, they are not. They are not
lifting.
stealing your papers. You know, they are not going to take the papers and go and thumbprint somewhere. They want to disrupt your voting. They see that candidate X is popular here, you know, then your candidate will not get votes there. That's when they come to snatch, right? To diminish the votes returned for that candidate that is popular in that area.
Well, there was this unverified report which said somewhere in the north, some individuals were caught with as much as 600 ballot papers, and they were. So why would they have all of those? Isn't it then just to thumbprint?
That one they told us it was on specimen. You know, there have been a lot of allegations flying around there. And this is election period, so I mean, you need to be careful as to what you believe.
And just to also add that INEC have said over and over again, if the election proceeding is disrupted at any polling unit, there will be a rerun. So even if it's one ballot paper that was stolen, there will be a rerun. The votes there would not be counted. Also, there will be transmission of results from the smart card reader directly to the collation center. And media personnel who are accredited would have access to this data.
That's why my question
and also,
then was,
there would also be manual.
This unattractive?
So, for me, I think that the fact that technology have been deployed, it has actually helped to ensure transparency in the entire process. The entire democratic value chain, the fact that we're using technology, so we're using smart card reader, we're using permanent voters card, and without accreditation, and the fact that we're even doing it simultaneously. So as soon as you get accredited, you're given the ballot paper, you go to the booth, and then you cast your ballot. So for me, I think that the fact that we're using technologies, it's amazing, and the fact that electronically this result will be transmitted, both electronically and manually. So there's no way you can play with the numbers.
So if I may come in there, if at the time you're voting, if it is transmitted electrically to the main server, hey, then I mean there will be no cause for ballot snatching again, no ballot box snatching.
Okay, and now we know that in 2015, in some places where the smart card reader malfunctioned, you know, some people were almost disenfranchised, and at some point, INEC would look at the situation and find that possibly a greater number of eligible voters are about to be disenfranchised, and they would say, oh, scrap the smart card readers, everyone vote with vote analog. That has happened. And in such cases, we know the verification process has been thrown to the background. In situations like that, ballot box snatching could also come into play. So let us not rule that out entirely, because in this election, we're still going to make use of smart card readers, but we know that with all that has happened, can we be optimistic enough to say that ballot box snatching is going to be at a low ebb, given that we know that with all that is happening, we cannot really say with a level of certainty how prepared INEC is to ensure that technology is utilized in this election. So shouldn't we as well be talking about ballot box snatching critically and very seriously? Don't you think that?
Well, for me, so in 2015, INEC deployed the smart card reader and using the PVC for verification, but then they had incident form. So for in any case where the smart card reader malfunction, then they can fill manually and then provide ballot paper. So in 2019, and from the information we got from INEC, what they have said is they're also deploying technical personnel. So for any reason, if a smart card reader malfunction, there will be someone on call to come and quickly respond to the incident so that they would not have to use incident form.
But do we have enough of stock of the smart card readers as well?
Oh, sadly, we lost over 4,000. Yeah, we lost over 4,000. But INEC have reassured Nigerians that, you know, they have more than enough.
Are you reassured? That's the question.
So the fact that we postponed the elections, again, there's no much confidence for the institution. But again, Nigeria is the only country we have, so we must keep supporting and just be positive about what would come or what will happen
Now,
on Saturday.
Dotun, you are a candidate in this election. Now, with all that has happened, can you give us, tell us, are you confident that with all that INEC is doing, that the election is going to be as smooth and that the card readers are going to work and that people are going to vote? What do you think would happen on Saturday, the 23rd of February?
Personally, my belief and trust in INEC has been shattered, with this last Saturday, whatever. So I'm very, very skeptical. But like I said, this is the country. This is the only country we can call our own. So we just have to be optimistic and try to support and see where we're going.
How much of community intelligence do you also expect will be working with, especially at the grassroots, even in cases where there's ballot box snatching, we have to get those perpetrators? How much of interface do you expect this time around?
Yeah, I think there will be a lot of interface, because like you see, this election, what I like about it is, like the level of interest that has generated and the awareness. Hey, everybody wants to vote. See, everybody has something to vote for or vote against. Then the rate at which people came out to get their PVCs, unlike previous times where you see people coming out 2 months of the election, emergency registration, which is what we're used to in Nigeria. But now, as far back as 1 year ago, people have been coming out to register. We have had over 14 million people doing registration, fresh registrations. Then we have had people that have changed their polling units. You see, because formerly, just somebody going to work, he comes down from the bus, he says, there's an INEC registration, I'll just go and register. Not because he wants to vote, but he might need it for government, whatever. Those kind of people too, they have now changed their polling units from where to register to where they can actually vote. So the level of awareness is very, very
how
high.
critical is community intelligence as well as sharing that information with our security apparatus to ensure that even in cases where there's ballot box, why is this a tongue twister? Even in cases where we have ballot box snatching, we are able to trace the perpetrators and bring them to book.
I'm glad you asked that question. So for us, we deployed a technology tool called UserBay. So UserBay is a real-time mapping tool that looks at incidents that trigger violence, because for us, we're keen about the electoral process, not the results and outcome, because issues that trigger violence are issues around ballot box snatching, police harassment, voter inducement. For me, I'm more concerned around vote buying and vote selling. That's the scourge we're facing. A lot of ballots will not be snatched on that day because it's useless if you actually disrupt the process by snatching ballot box. But vote buying and vote selling,
We'll
it's
come
what
to that, but
we're keen.
how much of an interface do you expect from the communities when it comes to sharing information, intelligence, and the end goal is to ensure that all of the perpetrators are brought to book?
So for us, and working at the grassroots in the 36 states, using our community mobilizers with Follow the Money, we have that fantastic relationship with the communities where we tell them, report what you see and don't keep quiet. And we have a good partnership with the security agencies where we're providing them with real-time information so that they can also mobilize and act on it, using technology to actually document every process.
Okay, now I want to draw us back to something precisely what the president said, word for word. He said, I want to warn anybody who thinks he has enough influence in his locality. In his locality. Locality is the key word here. Now, how do we expect communities to react when one of their own is about to be lynched or beaten by security operatives? Don't we see that as a time bomb, something we do not want? If the president's statement is to be carried out to the letter by security agencies, communities, are they just going to be looking? And then, of course, we know if the person is a local star or, someone who is well known in the locality, like he said, having influence in his locality, wouldn't that cause a kind of confrontation?
In the first instance, we say all politics is local. One, then two. Why would security forces want to beat somebody? What will have happened that they want to beat you, that you have gone out to cast your vote? See, that's the first question. So what have you done? What infraction? Your community itself will call you to order. You see, I foresee a situation where even if they snatch a ballot box now, the people will run after you. like they are run after a thief, knowing fully well that the perimeter is secured by the military. So they're going to run after you. This time around, they run after you. So that's what I see.
So you, from what you just said, you're hoping that the communities are able to work with the government to ensure that ballot box snatches are. Is that typically what you expect to see as well?
And just to also add, see, the communities are very aware now, unlike previous years before elections. And now our sensitization is centered around protecting your mandate. So it's not just about casting your votes. We also say, you know, wait 300 meters, across the line and just observe the entire process. So people want to protect their mandate. So if a local, someone who is popular in their community would not want to go and affect something that would bring about development, healthcare, education in their community, the community would rise to protect their own mandate.
Yes.
Talking about cutting across, we know that the anti-corruption fight has been criticized as not being fair to all parties. And we also know of the statement by APC National Chairman Adams Oshomole that when you come over to the APC, your sins are forgiven. Now, if ballot box snatching is the center focus for the president and he's saying that they will pay with their own lives, will that cut across? Do you see that cutting across as well? To everyone,
yes.
party?
You see, because really, the president's statement, right, to me, is more directed to APC. Yes, as far as I'm concerned.
How so?
Oh, okay. Because I mean, I'm a player. I've been involved in elections here. You know what I mean? In my locality, I know what happens. You know, occasionally, although it is reduced. You see? So that's why I don't have any problem with what he said.
Why do you think he was speaking to his own party? He was pointing his finger back to himself.
No, he's telling you that he's not afraid to lose. That he wants Nigerians to be respected. He wants the election to have integrity, so that the international community can respect whatever comes out of it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
Are you expecting, would you have rather preferred that we had seen this sort of sharp stance, understanding that we've seen a decline in the trend of ballot box snatching? We see technology is reducing that trend, but the new complex trend we have is vote buying. So would you have rather appreciated the president a little bit more and have a little bit of extra confidence if this same energy was channeled towards vote buying and other levels of misconduct? Because some would say there's no need to be selective on what sort of malpractice should have the prominence here.
Oh, yes. I think it would have made more sense if he had channeled his energy and opinion to put in vote buying and vote selling on the front burner, because probably this would help dilute politicians or key political stakeholders who are looking at using money to induce voters on Saturday. But then again, Mr. President is entitled to his opinion, his thoughts, and his utterances. But then what is important is to ensure that the rule of law precedes anyone and everyone.
Is he really entitled to his opinions, because his words are seen as he's the mouthpiece of Nigeria?
So in the eyes of the permanent voters card, and I'm quite excited about the permanent voters card because it brings about equity, he's only entitled to one vote.
Okay, we'll see then on Saturday. Wow, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. We have been discussing with Said we've been discussing with Dotun Olaribiwe. He is a candidate, Lagos Central Senatorial District Liberation Movement. Thank you for joining us. And we've also had Hamzat Lawal, Chief Executive, Connected Development Code. Thank you so much as well for your insights.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Now the conversation continues, but it's time to bring you some news updates. Don't go anywhere.